Well, good morning, friends. I am really glad that you're here. We get to sew today, and that makes me so happy. Okay, I have made a really big mess. Yeah, and you're just seeing like the tip of the iceberg here. There's like cuts everywhere. This is a free pattern. This is good for a jelly roll. I had this fabric left over that I had cut up into 2.5-inch strips. So I really want to use it because I think it is so cute. So it has pink flowers in there with green little stems. So we have pink and green. And then of course I had to add yellow because apparently I have to add yellow to everything. So here are these cute little blocks that we're going to make together. I'll show you these ones. I'm using a lot of scraps for this one. So if you need a scrap busting quilt, this is a good one. Isn't that cutie? This makes me think of the lime Tootsie Rolls. I love the lime Tootsie Rolls. So maybe subconsciously I was like, hey, you could probably use some candy. There's that one. And then here's a cute yellow one. I just realized I didn't even show you the quilt or the pattern. So this is a free pattern. It is by Moda. I will link it below. It's called a quadrangle. I think it's really cute. And I think with all the pinks, the greens, and the yellows, this is going to go together pretty well. So this has tiny little sashing. Like I said, I'm trying to use my strips here. So I'm actually cutting those in half for the sashing. So we have like bitty baby sashing in there, which I don't love because that means that that is a tiny, tiny square, but it's fine. It's fine. So this is using strip piecing because we have those little patchwork squares in there. You could just use 2.5-inch squares and sew them together if you'd like. Strip piecing it just speeds up the process. So we've done strip piecing before. We did it on the gingham quilt. This one's incredibly long, but I am just using 18-inch strips because this is actually the perfect amount to get 8 cuts from. So let's make a strip with this one. Oh, look, I've got a green one in the machine right now too. So there's a lot of things happening over here. So just welcome to the chaos. Maybe that's what I should have said. I do need some more yellows. I've already used all of these colors over here, and I just wanted to add some more yellows because why not? So I'm going to cut a strip. I'm going to clear a space and then cut a strip of 2.5 inches out of this fabric here. But of course that cut was right in between my mats. So why would it be anywhere else except for right in the crack? Okay, we'll put that away because I'll probably need some more of it. We'll put that away is code for throw it somewhere else. And then I'm just taking scissors and then cutting this right on the fold, perhaps, so that we can get those measurements right from the get-go. Okay, so strip piecing, right sides together. And I'm going to sew that 1/4 inch right down this side of those strips. Let's magic through that, and then we'll go from there. And there are those 2 yellow strips. We even pulled out the green. So we'll cut those at the same time, and maybe we'll make 2 blocks at once. So I have a full confession before we jump into cutting here. I'll get these set up, and then I'll talk. I picked this pattern specifically because there were no stars in it, and I have a lot of star patterns. You know that. And so I was like, pick something besides stars. So I picked these squares, and you know what I'm thinking this whole time? What if we put a star block somewhere in here? So even in a pattern that doesn't ask for stars, I'm trying to think of ways to put stars into it. Oh my gosh, I'm hopeless. Okay, I just got these nice and lined up. They're just even with each other and they're straight with the line in my mat here. I'm going to trim off these funny ends. But we need 8 pieces because we have, this screen's easier to see, because we have our first piece of that strip piecing right here and then another underneath. They're just alternated. And then we need to make that block 4 times. So 2, 4, 6, 8 cuts. We can do this. And like I said, I figured out that the half yard or the 18 inches, the fat quarter size is pretty good. I just want you to know that that was all natural speed. I did not fast forward that part at all. I am just that quick. Is that believable? Nope. Okay, we have 8 pieces of these greens and these yellows. So when you open them up, then you have your 2 different colors in there, okay? When I iron these, I'm going to pick one side. Usually they say do the dark side, but that wasn't a Star Wars reference. Sorry. There's my mind. I'm like a squirrel today, like okay, usually they say the dark side, but just pick a side and iron the same thing up and over. So that way they're the same, but when we go to alternate, then we can nest, okay? Don't go to the dark side, just go iron. Glad you all have come back to the light. Here are those yellows ironed, and then here are those greens. Those are cutie. Let's make some patchwork blocks. So like I said, we've ironed them all. I've done this yellow up and over. So now that we're going to alternate and put them right sides together, those seams in there will nest and it'll lock, and that will give us nice points here in the middle of those little patchwork squares. Then we just get to sew and iron them open. So I don't think we need to walk through that together. I am going to iron that open just so that this bulk here where we have those layers meeting gets dispersed and it lays down nice and flat. But other than that, I will see you in a second for sashing then, huh? Let's do some magic. Oops, I magicked so hard the greens went on top. There are our cute little patchwork squares. And there is that seam that I just ironed open. And so you can just see all that bulk nicely lays down back there. Let's do some sashing. I am just taking one of these strips, like I said, 2.5 inch background strips, and I am cutting them in half. So that is 1.25 inches. And now that I think about it, I don't even think I read what the pattern had because I just like accommodated what I had. So let's see what the pattern even says. Sashing strips 1.5 by 4.5. So theirs is about 1/4 inch bigger than mine. But you know me and how I love small pieces. Okay, let's cut this down to 1.25 inches because then we'll be able to have 2 strips from this big one, and I just get more sashing out of it. So economical. And then we are going to cut these into 4.5 inches. I'm sure there are some already cut under there, but it'll probably take me just as long to unbury them as it would just to cut new ones. So here's where we're at. And again, no editing, just raw power. I am in a weird mood today, you lucky ducks. Somewhere I have my tiny little squares. So we're going to cut our little tiny green piece there. That is also 1.25 inches, and they're just 1.25 inch squares. Okay, we'll finish cutting those later. Hopefully I don't lose them between now and then. Let's lay this out because our darks meet in the middle. So I'm going to sew a piece of sashing right here and then make that a row. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing for this bottom strip, and then we're going to make one long skinny piece of sashing. But again, we're going to iron this a particular way so that we can still get that to nest in the middle. Typically, I don't like to do sashing in a long strip like that. I'll actually come through and give one block a short side and then a long side with this cornerstone, and then I would add this on. Does that make sense? So this isn't typically how I like to run it, but with nesting, we can get that center to line up and be exactly where we want it to be. And we'll do that together. So let's put these together. And now let's do this one, but let's flip that the right way. We don't want that backwards. Now let's do this one. There we have both of our pieces. I do want to talk about how I iron them. So I sewed the strip onto the one piece, like I said, and then I ironed that white piece up and over so that now that we're done with this, this white is kind of sitting on top of the yellow. And then I did the same exact thing for when I added the other square. That is going to be important for when we make this middle sashing and we put them together. So I'm going to take 2 more pieces and we're going to add that little square in the middle because I just love working with tiny little squares. We are going to sew these right sides together, but instead of ironing that little square up and over, we're actually going to flip it and iron that strip. So again, when we come to nest, these 2 white pieces are going to lock. Okay, seems a little unnatural to leave the green underneath and iron that big strip over, but it's for nesting purposes. So we do weird things for good points, I guess. Let's jump through that and then we will assemble this together. And there we have our sashing strip and even another. Thank you, Magic. That's for the green one that's been riding our coattails this whole video. Let's put this together. So if you can see, I'll do my best to show you. This green is now like underneath the white. So it's kind of a hole. That's what I'm going to call it. And we are going to put our, oh, rude. We are going to put that green right over our sashing because we're kind of leaving that, oh, come on, show it. Because my words are not going to do it justice. I just know that. But that sashing right here now actually fits right in with that green, and that is nesting the middle of our block. I'll probably just pinch it here so that it doesn't shift, and then line this up with the rest of my blocks and stitch, and then we will iron this up and over. And I'm telling you, if you got $1 for every time I said that, you'd be pretty rich this video. Okay, who noticed that that was the wrong side of the squares? Anyone? I just went to go iron it and I was like, that's not even the center of the block. Okay, now I have to find my seam ripper in this. Okay, not under the machine. Truth be told, this green one was really rude earlier. So the seam ripper, oh, there it is. Phew, what are the odds? The seam ripper's been out. Okay, let me pick this, put it on the right side of the block, although I'm going to nest it the same exact way, and then we'll go from there. Oh, seam ripping. My nemesis. There we go. I fixed it. This one I sewed backwards like that 3 times in a row. Don't ask me how I did it 3 times in a row, but I did. And it was very frustrating. You'd think after 2, you'd be like, hey, you'll get it after this one. Sure didn't. So that's why I didn't show you that one. We've currently broken up. Okay, let's stop talking about past sewing experiences and let's go on to this one. This is the same exact thing, except for we're not putting the sashing onto the block. We're putting the block onto the sashing, okay? And we're gonna put that white sashing right in the grooves of that green and then sew our other halves together. Okay, it's the right way, just in case you were curious. Okay, I'll be back in a sec. And there we have it, all going the correct direction. How exciting. This one is pretty simple. I like that it's going through a lot of fabrics that I love, but it's not taking a ton of them, but they're actually getting off of my shelf. So that's nice. There's our yellow. And then of course, here's the green that I've been quietly working on in the background. That turned out really cute too. Oh, I love them. Okay, this is going to be pretty cute, even though there's not a star in sight. Ugh. I live by making quilt stars. Go back, hair. Don't get stuck in my eyebrow. Those turned out really cute. I'm really pleased with them. They're a little bit easier to see here. They're interfering with my subtle marketing strategy. These ones do get trimmed down to 10 inches. If you do follow the pattern and you do the 1.5 inch sashing, then yours will be bigger. But because mine's a little bit smaller, you know, it cuts down to about 10 inches even. So there is sashing that goes in between. Let's see, that's hard to like focus my eyeballs on. Let's find it in. Nope, that's hard too. Okay, focus. So there is sashing and we'll pretty much do the same thing, but I think for these big blocks, I'll do the sashing the way that we had talked about before, where I will do a white strip on this side. And then for this bottom sashing, I'll do another white strip with that cornerstone in it. And so this square will be sashed on 2 sides. And then that way, when we start putting them together, it'll look like we've gone all the way through the blocks, okay? That was the best way I could describe it. So hopefully that was helpful. I'm really excited to see these pinks and greens and yellows come together. I just think they're so cute. And it's really simple. Like I said, it's using a lot of fabrics that I love and that I've just been like hoarding. So I like that they're finally getting a chance to shine beyond the bucket. So pretty cute. And as promised, I'm going to talk about Pineberry. I was working on these flowers. I have to tell you this because it's hilarious. I was just working on these flowers and I was putting the borders on. So this was not put together. It was literally just the flowers. And my daughter comes in and she goes, "Are you making breakfast?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Is this a breakfast quilt?" And I'm like thinking like a quilt you would take to breakfast. Okay. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You're making eggs." So she thinks it's a breakfast themed quilt. And I said, "No, those are flowers." And she's kind of like, "Are you sure?" So here is the flower block that goes with the pine berries. Not a fried egg. But I was able to get those done in both colorways so you can really see what that's going to look like in your kits. So pretty cute. Fried eggs and cilantro, I guess, huh? I really hope that you'll join me. It's going to be a lot of fun. So this pattern says it is advanced beginner. I remember that I just said that there are no half square triangles in it, but I'm a dirty liar because there are half square triangles in these leaves. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie to you. There are no half square triangles in the strawberry, but there are in the leaves, but we do the 8 at a time method. So you can always adjust to whatever you feel comfortable with, but we will be talking the 8 at a time half square triangle method for these leaves and these eggs. I can't like unsee the eggs now. Maybe I should have done the leaves like reds, like a dark red color or something to look like bacon. Okay, there's my plug. I expected it to sound a little bit more professional than that, but you know, here we are. Here is that pattern one more time. Quadrangle, perfect for jelly rolls if you're holding on to jelly rolls. And like I said, if you cut that jelly roll in half, that 18-inch piece will give you 8 pieces, which you need for 1 square. So it works out pretty good. That was pretty satisfying. Okay, we'll see what Thursday brings, friends. This is kind of a wild card today, but I will see you then. Goodbye.